Right, so it appears that Glitch can't go 4 months without announcing a new project they're working on because we have yet another show to be looking at. Except the word new there isn't entirely accurate. This is Gameoverse, the newest 2D animated pilot released on the Glitch network, produced by Storytime animator Rubber Ross and co-written by Aaron Hansen. Starring Erica Lindbeck as Kit, a heroic space fairy on a mission to save other video game worlds, along with their not-so-trusty partner Caboodle, played by the big man himself, Jay Schlatt.
You can spit fireballs.
Yeah?
You didn't think that was important to tell me.
Now that I've dropped all these names everywhere, what am I actually going to be talking about here? Well, the trailer itself is very short and leaves plenty of questions, so I'll be going over how the rules in this universe work, the plot of the pilot, and who the real heroes and villains are in this story. I'm also going to talk about how Glitch came to acquire this story, despite the fact that it's older than the entire studio. Let's get into it. The way the Gameoverse universe functions is comparable to that of Wreck-It Ralph or the second Space Jam movie. Individual games are placed on their own planets that are for the most part completely isolated from each other. Kit has a limited ability to travel between these planets as her home game allows for space travel and other advanced technologies. This has also allowed her to uncover the fact that something terrible is happening to these games. Once they're beaten and the windscreen appears, the game world, along with everything in it, is destroyed by a mysterious force that we'll get back to later. Therefore, in order to save the planets, Kid and Caboodle, you'll start to see this pun naming convention a lot, have to assist the villains in these games to prevent the protagonists from completing them. We see in the trailer what happens if they don't get to do that. This is a relatively interesting premise, not entirely a new idea, but a good platform for a lot of diverse characters as they are literally from different genres within gaming. Despite the fact that the show paints itself in a strange mesh of good and evil working with each other, I think it will likely separate quite quickly into the standard good versus evil story. Speaking of these characters, we get introduced to a couple of sets of heroes and villains. The most obvious pairing is Flippers and Snappers from some sort of fish-based RPG. We can see Caboodle training Snappers to be a better fighter at the end of the trailer so that they can beat Flippers and prevent the game from ending. Notice though that Caboodle, normally the sidekick, is by himself here, suggesting that after their escape from Gobble's world in the trailer, they crash land on this one, separating Kit from her partner. This separation is likely caused by our two other antagonists, Warwick and Misinformation. These two are styled very similarly to Kit and as such are probably from her original game. They also share this symbol convention between them. Though unlike the goofy antagonist Caboodle is training, these guys here are actually competent and look ready to stop Kit, perhaps meaning that they are involved in the plot to kill all of these other games. These two are also joined by a Mr. Fold, who at this point just feels like a self-insert, but I won't get carried away in that assumption. These three, however, are not the real problem. The real problem is Reginald McGrimdark, the elf who isn't actually in the trailer but does appear in this promotional poster. He is likely the mastermind of the whole thing who has put the other villains up to whatever they're doing. Judging purely off of his design, this is done out of some sort of misconstrued idea of superiority over the more childish games. That means that he needs to kill them in order to advance the Aryan— well, wait, no, sorry, wrong topic. He's likely the holder of the mysterious power from before and uses the period in which a game world resets after it is beaten to corrupt and kill it. Alright, so that's what this project is, but I said in the start of this video and the title that the show is more than a decade in the making. How can that be possible when Glitch as an entity has only existed since 2018? That is because, unlike the typical procedure for Glitch where they approach a creator and give them an opportunity to pitch a show that they haven't thought of yet, resulting in a mild panic over 2 weeks as they think of something, Ross has had this idea for a very, very long time. A bit about Ross's history on YouTube first. He was originally part of a channel called Game Grumps, where he would make things to help the main stars of the show, Danny and Aaron. The Aaron that appears here, to be specific. With funding from the Game Grumps money, Ross started to put together the ideas for this show's pilots, getting inspiration and writing help from Aaron in an attempt to get the show picked up by a major network. However, as these things often go, the show was turned down by all of the studios he pitched it to. The primary complaints being that it didn't seem like there was a big enough audience for the show. Gee, where have we heard that one before? This was around 6 years ago, and since that point the project was shelved. Ross left Game Grumps in its entirety and pursued his own career on YouTube. Because there are a bunch of non-disclosure agreements surrounding Glitch, at the moment we can't be certain whether Ross pitched this to them or Glitch picked him to make a project and he just decided to use this one, but it does seem very in line with the Glitch style. We have a heavy emphasis on the use of technology, especially when it goes wrong, cheerful exteriors over the top of horrifying reality, a distant superpower that wants to destroy all of reality, and a muddled objective where the protagonists are both trying to lose and win at the same time. Oh, and anthropomorphic cats. Needless to say, I doubt the Glitch audience will be taking much issue with the plot of this show or the way it's made. However, from looking at the trailer, I do have a single criticism at the moment.
Hey, Gobbles and Stegosaurus!
The dialogue. Now, I mentioned before some of the voice cast of this show, and I put up a short earlier in the week outlining how wacky it is, but that's not the problem. The problem is most of the sentences in the trailer feel off. This guy doesn't speak correctly, I can't understand what this guy is saying, this feels forced, and Jay Schlatt is Fine, actually, no notes there. I think that some of this script could have used another once over before being sent to the voice actors to polish off some of the strange word choices and make it flow a little nicer, and that comes down to Ross and Aaron themselves. But the full season of this show won't be releasing until at least mid-2027, with the pilot coming out in May, so they'll have plenty of time to work these issues over. But that's all I've got for today, thank you all for watching, and have a good one.